Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, party people, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 164 of Gridiron Grinder, and for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to do the news from this past week. After that, we're going to give you our Week 8 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we're going to close things off with our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight there, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you? Sorry, the
It,
wife's messaging me like right as we fucking start.
right as we get going. Well, hey, I can put us on pause if you need to take a minute there, man.
No, I can multitask it.
Okay, multitask. All right, good stuff. Yeah, hey, everything's going well over here, man. Getting a little bit tired, but uh, you know, little gridiron grinder always gets me fired back up again. So just got to wait for that second wave to kick in, man.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, well, hey, whenever you're ready, why don't you do a little name that stadium for us, bud?
All right, if I could just get that to do, and then, all right, let me press send on that. All right, so this is part of the show. As you can see, I'm traveling around, going to different stadiums that host NFL games. Normally tie it into something that week. First person that guesses right, I'll give you an extra special shout out, bookmark it, and then you can play it for all your friends. Heck, somebody guesses, we'll give you a extra special shout out because I haven't seen many takers lately on it. But last week I was in Baltimore for the pathetic game that ended up being in Baltimore, where we didn't have a first down until like we were already down 28-0.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to be a better game. I shouldn't have overridden my model on it, but hey, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And no, it's tough, man. It was hard to go against them. We wanted to ride that hype train while it was rolling, and I was with you. I did the override on my model, and it's just tough when you're a fan and things are looking good. You just hope it'll keep staying good, and then you get smacked in the face, and you go back to the drawing board. So.
Yeah, exactly. And my model this week had a few. We'll get into them. Where I was like, seriously?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I did to my model, but something jacked it up, and
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time to figure out what the fuck went wrong.
No, I know, and we're on a short week this week, so I know my model is missing some of the injuries, and I haven't updated it for the that Kevin Byard trade and some things like that. And so, for things that looked a little bit out of sort, I tried to like defer to my power rankings as kind of like a tiebreaker for where the model might have seemed like it was a little bit off.
Yeah, I tried to look at that, but it was like in my power rankings, some of the teams I had rated so close. It's like, well,
Oh yeah.
I could just be wrong and have
Go
it
with
the
the
other
home team.
order. Uh, I don't remember what I did. I think I left a couple of them and flipped a couple of them. I think I flipped two or three of them,
Gotcha.
but there was like five or six.
Okay.
Three, four, there are five.
Well, all right. Well, yeah. I mean, hey, we're kind of going down the rabbit hole, but if you want to, move on to our news of the week, we can do that, and then eventually we'll get to our game picks and all that kind of jazz. So,
Yeah, we can do that.
all right. So for news from the past week, and so I thought there would only be a handful of things because we just talked on Friday and it's Wednesday, but there was actually a fair amount of stuff that came in, and so in no particular order, looks like Ryan Tannehill's expected to be out this weekend, and instead of Malik Willis getting the nod, they are prepping rookie Will Levis to be the guy.
See, that's what I heard was they were going to do rotating quarterback. Like Will Levis gets a couple drives, or yeah, Will Levis, and then
So
Malik Willis gets a couple drives. They're going to use them both.
I saw that the other day, and then I saw today it's going to be Levis. But maybe they'll still do that. Maybe they'll still each get a piece of the action, which I
Yeah.
think is good. I mean, Levis was going to be a first round pick. A lot of people had him that high on their board, and then he slid to the second round. They're kind of looking at hopefully him being kind of like the franchise quarterback of the future. You might as well start seeing what you got in the guy.
Yeah. It's true.
All right. So aside from that, I saw Brett Maher, the former kicker for the Rams. He was released after missing 3 field goals versus Pittsburgh this past weekend. The team is looking at multiple replacement options for him. Another release, but with the Lions, Marvin Jones, our wide receiver. He has stepped away from the team for personal family issues. I don't really know exactly what went on, but he made the decision to step away. The Lions followed that up by just officially releasing him, and so he's no longer with the team. Moving on with life. And then in other wide receiver news, we've got Chris Olave, the Saints wide receiver. He was arrested the other day for reckless driving. Not a good situation. And then we've got the Kansas City wide receiver, Justin Ross, arrested for domestic violence and property damage. That's not good either. After that, we've got safety Kareem Hunt from Denver, suspended for 4 games. Not off the field related. His is for multiple violations of the unnecessary roughness policy. And so he's going to miss a few games there. And then let's see. I'm just kind of blabbering here in any particular order here, but I mentioned earlier
So
Kevin Byard. He was,
before we go on,
yeah.
with Maher being released, the Rams actually signed Lucas Havrasik from
Oh,
the
gotcha.
Browns
Okay, so they did
practice
sign a
squad.
guy.
So I don't know, but then it's weird because like I see that was yesterday, and then today they worked out what's his face, Mason Crosby.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, all right. So they're kicking the tires on a lot of options. They want to see what they can do. But yeah, I mean, when you have a kicker miss 3, hypothetically, if he made all 3 of those, they win that game against Pittsburgh, right? So,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, okay. So the report is if they do sign Crosby, it'll likely be to the practice squad because of them signing Havrasik.
okay,
Um, so Havrasik is going to be the kicker on the active roster because by them signing him, he's guaranteed 3 active roster game checks.
gotcha. Okay. Oh, kickers. It's fun, man. The Achilles heel if you don't get it right.
Yeah, I've never even heard of this guy, so
Uh,
apparently
it,
a
it does
rookie.
ring a bell for me, but I'm trying to remember where. I don't know. Huh. It's all right. All right. So then, James, in other news, looks like the Hard Knocks, the TV show, is coming back with another in-season version, and the Miami Dolphins are going to be featured in that this year.
Really? I missed that news.
Just
That's
caught it earlier.
interesting.
Yep. And I didn't watch the, was it last year with the Cardinals?
Yeah, it was last year with the Cardinals. I didn't care
Yeah.
to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but that's okay. And so then, yeah, we talked a little bit about Kevin Byard. He's the safety formerly of the Tennessee Titans, was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. I did not catch the compensation for that, but basically Philly just looking to, like lock down that secondary. Man, they're always just like wheeling and dealing. It's
Yeah, it
wild.
was they gave up a player, and I forget who it was. Where the fuck did that go? But I know there was a player, and it was a couple picks because I saw a tweet, and it was like they got AJ Brown and Byard for like 1 player and 2 picks.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can pull it real quick because I just saw it.
Yeah.
Just if it could open. So they traded Terrell Edmonds and 2 draft picks for Bayard.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that Edmonds was a part of that. It's interesting that they got rid of Edmonds, but um, I guess the idea is that they're upgrading at safety. So,
Yeah, and I don't think Edmonds had really done much of anything
yeah,
this year. Like he was kind of absent,
sure.
so to speak. Let me see if I can pull his stats.
Yeah, I've not heard much about him this season. I know he was more of like a staple on the Steelers defense for a while there. But it's tough changing teams, man. It doesn't always work.
I mean, he had 20. Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing really at all. 28 total tackles, no
For
sacks.
safety, man, that's not bad.
Um, 1 forced fumble, no interceptions.
Yeah, not what they wanted, so they moved on. And Byard
Yeah,
was unhappy in Tennessee, and so this could be part of like Philly, smelling blood in the water and making a move to upgrade for basically pennies on the dollar.
yeah.
All right, so then I saw Nick Bolton, the Kansas City, I almost said wide receiver, linebacker. He injured his wrist, is having surgery, and is expected to be out for 2 months. That's a pretty big blow for that defense, man. He's been really good in his young career.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Bill Belichick, with that upset over Buffalo, reached 300 regular season wins, James. I know we just talked about him a couple weeks ago. So that's all I got on the news, man. What am I missing?
Um, so this happened uh, earlier today. Frank Clark found a landing spot.
Oh
He's
shit, I
being
didn't see
signed.
that.
He's being signed to the Seattle Seahawks.
Ah, damn it, man. Okay, well that's a good spot for him.
And I nothing really on compensation that I'm seeing in the news reporting on it. There's another one, and I'm drawing a blank. Let me see if I can. Brock Purdy is questionable with the concussion. I actually saw some stats. He was concussed late in the game against Minnesota, and it was like his stats, his passer rating went from, oh, let me see if I can find it again, because it was crazy the difference. Like they could track when he got the concussion. Who tweeted it? I think it was.
Well, that's interesting because I was going to ask you about him in our question of the week here, James. Well, that's definitely interesting because that's going to tie in. But good to know.
Yeah, so he was 19 for 24 with 252 yards, 1 TD, 0 interceptions, 124.3 passer rating before the concussion. And after the concussion, he was 2 for 6 for 20 yards, no TDs, 2 interceptions, and a 4.2 passer rating.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting, huh? And so what? They just didn't catch it until after the game?
I guess I don't know. Like I haven't seen like much else on it besides the fact that he is questionable. Um, he had a concussion. It was I don't. I was trying to see who if it said who. It was one of the Vikings linebacker, but
Okay.
and like the normal questions were like, oh, it was on a QB sneak,
Gotcha.
so you can see like because I found when he's trying to go kind of like into the pile to get the yard, linebacker, who is that? Hicks. Hicks hit him and kind of went helmet to
Jarred his
helmet on
helmet.
him.
Okay.
So
So they suspect in review that that's where it happened.
yeah. So they suspect in the review that apparently that was the last like big hit he took or something. So, but that's where they determined he got a concussion because he was diagnosed after the game. I don't know how the fuck you miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's strange. Yeah. Well, we're not perfect. You know, we all make mistakes and miss things,
Mm-hmm.
and shit happens. So, hopefully the dude's okay. You know, because they're lost 2 games in a row now, not looking good, and a lot of people are freaking out about it. So, yeah, we'll come back to that in our question of the week here in a little bit, James. What else you got on the news, man?
Apparently, PJ Walker is going to start for the Browns again this week.
Holy cow, man! What? So Watson started, but then left the game.
So he was started and he entered concussion protocol, and then he was cleared from concussion protocol, but Stefanski made the decision to keep Walker in the game after that. And
Okay,
then
so
so
this isn't related to the shoulder injury that he had before. This is something new now.
see, I thought it was a concussion, and my page froze that had the news on it, and so all I can see is so far is the quote that Stefanski said that Watson will focus on rehab this week instead of practicing with the team. So it might
Gotcha.
be shoulder related, but I thought it was concussion related,
Okay. Yeah, either
like in
way,
the game.
not going the way that they wanted with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, not at all.
Oh, jeez.
And I mean,
Ah,
I'm sure there's like 100 other things that not 100, but I'm sure there's a ton of other things from this past week that I can't. My page
it's
is
all right,
frozen.
man. Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot that popped up for being a short week for us.
Yeah, so my browser's completely frozen, so we can
Move on.
move on.
All right. Well, yeah, hey, if you want to come back to it, that's cool. But for the time being, we can shift gears here and we can do our week 8 power rankings. And so whenever you're ready, James, if you want to give me your one through
Well, we have
five, man, go for it.
we have to do surprise games first.
Oh, Schnitzel, I forgot about the surprise games. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, go ahead, man. You give me
So,
your surprise games.
so the first one is, and we were just kind of talking about it a little bit, is the Minnesota San Francisco game.
Yep.
Minnesota was literally doing everything they can with questionable play call or questionable coaching decisions to kick the field goal and then miss the field goals to try to lose the game. And San Francisco somehow was not able to capitalize on it and lucked out and won the game. Like, I don't know. Cousins didn't play terribly in the game,
For a primetime game, yeah.
which is a surprise for a primetime game. But I mean, it was 22-17, but the 49ers, I think this is the first time, the most points the 49ers have allowed all season was
Okay,
to Minnesota or something ridiculous like that. It's the second most, it looks like.
gotcha.
Because they allowed 23 to the Rams.
Okay.
So, which is a surprise that Minnesota was able to capitalize that like that. Um, and then so that would be my first surprise, and my page just popped up and loaded again, so I got distracted. Okay, so apparently he was in concussion protocol, but he wasn't put back in the game, and he's having shoulder stiffness. So he had
Okay.
another MRI. He didn't. This week he had another MRI, didn't re-injure it or suffer structural damage. but there's residual swelling that's affecting his throwing. So that's why he's going to be out this week.
Gotcha.
So I digress back to my other surprise game of the week. I don't know which one to pick on that because
I'd go New England over Buffalo.
well, see, I was gonna go New England over Buffalo, but if you look at like kind of this season for Josh Allen, he plays down to the competition he's playing.
Yeah, and they're missing a lot of guys on defense, man.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
yeah. So and it's not a Bill Belichick like thing to lose 4 games in a row.
No,
So
and they're good to get one on Buffalo every now and then, but it just still I think caught a lot of people off guard with New England 1-5 going into that game, man.
yeah, I was gonna actually go to the Browns Colts game,
Okay.
not as much the winner, but the fact that the Colts were able to put up 38 points against the Browns,
Mm-hmm.
um, is
Caught him sleeping at the wheel or some shit.
yeah, like, and I don't, it's not like it. I mean, you kind of could say would be a trap game because they played the 49ers the previous week, and then this week they played the Seahawks. So the defense was kind of you
Yeah,
could say
take a
the
breath,
defense was
guys.
kind of
Yeah.
take a breath, but fucking Miles Garrett played a phenomenal game. Um, he he have like he had like 6 sacks or something, some
Whoa,
ridiculous,
shit, I didn't hear that.
ungodly number. Yeah, I mean, he had a safe, he had a, it wasn't a
Oh
safety,
yeah,
he had a
yeah,
strip sack fumble, or
yeah, I
a
saw
strip sack
some of the
fumble that led to a
highlights, yeah.
touchdown. Um, so let me see if I can pull it real quick
Yeah,
because
he's a
he
fucking
had
beast, man.
totals of Q. Why the fuck doesn't why is sacks not listed as a fucking category in the box score? Oh, there it is. He had 2 sacks. Sorry,
Okay.
it's just like some because I was watching Red Zone and every time it went to the fucking Browns game, it it was like Miles Garrett another sack. It felt like, but he had that huge strip sack in the end zone that led to a touchdown. Um, and it was a surprise, and also Indy had a chance to towards the end to come back and tie the game because it was a late touchdown with like 2 minutes left that Cleveland took the lead on.
Gotcha.
Um, so Indy played real tough and putting up 38 points against what is the best, if not the best, one of the best defenses in the league, who had not allowed more. I don't think they had allowed more than they had allowed 22 points. I'm sorry, 26 points against Pittsburgh, and that's the most they had allowed. That's like the only time they allowed more than a more well. Pittsburgh and 49ers were the only teams that scored more than a touchdown. I'm sorry, let me
Yeah.
rephrase that. More than a field goal. Oh, what the fuck? Okay, my list is fucking wrong on this website because the Ravens put up 28 against them and
Okay.
Pittsburgh put up 26 against them, but they like Cincinnati. They held Cincinnati to three fucking points, and which I know Cincinnati's a different team, but they also held the Titans to 3 points. So statistically, they're one of the best defenses, and for Indianapolis to put up as much as they did against them is confusing to me.
Yeah.
But those were the two that I hit on. Did you
Okay.
have any ones that
Oh,
I
you
didn't hit
didn't
on?
you didn't think Denver over Green Bay or Chicago over Vegas in the battle of the backups?
No. So when with Denver over Green Bay, let me find that week 7. So for that game, my model had it as less than less than a field goal. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm just
not
surprised Denver's beating anybody.
it's not I don't think it's as big of a surprise. And then the Vegas Chicago game, my model had it as a virtual tie.
Yeah, and it's tough when you got two backups like that. And I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, Bagent looked amazing as a
he
rookie.
did.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, and I had a note for later, but yeah, I mean, we talked about how he showed a lot of poise in the preseason, which is why they elected to keep him instead of a veteran backup.
Hmm.
And then when he came in to replace Fields last week, he had a bit of that deer in the headlights look. But I tell you what, man, he got his feet under him pretty goddamn fast this last game.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought he looked phenomenal for what I saw of the game. Not well, phenomenal for a rookie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought he looked real sharp, man. Okay, cool. Well, if you're good there, now we can do our Week 8 power rankings.
Yeah. Oh,
Give me one
wait,
through
wait, wait.
five, man.
Before we go to that, you also have the Atlanta controversy with the
Oh, what's
Bijan
going on there?
Robinson. So apparently Bijan Robinson had an illness, but he wasn't on the injury report.
Okay,
So the league is investigating Atlanta over when they knew that Bijan Robinson had an injury. So because he dressed, but he wasn't listed as out, but they didn't play him
gotcha. Huh?
because they didn't play him because of an illness. So the league's looking into it as to if they knew he didn't plan on playing him. Was an inquiry. So the NFL is asking injury report compliance questions um, about when they knew rookie Bijan Robinson wasn't physically well and why he wasn't reported per league policy.
Gotcha. Shady fuckers, man.
And he
What
played a
would
little.
Brady say? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Well,
do that, man.
I liked Arthur Smith's quote about it, and it kind of uh, where is it? Because it's hilarious. Uh, I'm not seeing it here, but he basically said something along the lines of like, what do they want us to do? Tell the opposing coach what our split is. Hey, when I call a play,
Yeah,
should I yell across the field and say, hey, I'm handing it to Pedersen again on
yeah,
this play.
yeah.
And it's
Just so
like
you know,
something along those lines, like just like. eh, And I wish I could find the exact quote, but because I thought it was hilarious the way he said it.
okay. Yeah, I wonder what happened there. If because you said he dressed, so
Yeah. So he
maybe it
he
was like a
did
last minute stomach bug or something, and he
he
just was
did,
like, "Ah, shit, I'm not feeling good, man."
he entered the game late in the first quarter. So apparently he did play. All I saw was pictures of him on the sideline, and
Okay.
uh, he didn't enter the game until 2 minutes remained in the first quarter, and he told Fox at halftime that he wasn't feeling well. Uh, Robinson said after the game that he was suffering from headaches and began feeling weird on Saturday night when he
Oh,
struggled to sleep and woke up feeling completely out of it. He
gotcha.
took medicine, felt better, and adding that he wasn't tested for a concussion or administered a COVID test, whatever.
Hmm.
But I wonder what his stats were. I want to see what his stats were because I don't think he played but like maybe like 3 or 4 plays, like because Algier got the bulk of it. He had one carry for 3 yards.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, if the dude's not feeling right, you don't have to push it. Algier,
Yeah.
he's been really solid for them, and Cordero Patterson can do it if they need it too. So
Yeah, I think what the issue is they didn't report it as an
yeah,
injury, but then again, also he wasn't as I see the Falcons' point where he dressed the game and he entered the game just because he didn't play
yeah, the
all
full,
the
yeah,
plays. Like why would you report him as questionable due to an illness right before
yeah,
the game? You find out, well, he gets there and Swarm's like, I'm not really feeling well, coach. He's like, okay, no problem. We'll dress you and see if you feel better. But he wasn't questionable. It wasn't like
yeah,
there was a question whether he was going to dress, and that's what the injury designation
yep,
says. Like, is he going to dress or is he not going to dress? Like, he's going to dress. He obviously dressed. So I don't see what the issue is with the league. But the league is launched an inquiry into it, whatever the fuck that means.
okay,
All right. Anyways, I digress. My power rankings.
let's do it.
I'm gonna A lot of people out there are going to hate my power rankings, especially 1 through 5.
Okay,
And I'm going to back these up. All right. So at number 1, I have Baltimore. Baltimore jumped up 11 spots to my number 1. When I drilled down into the stats, Baltimore they're 5-2, so they're comparable, 6-1, 5-2, the
yep,
best records in the league. They have the best or of the best strength of schedules, and strength of victory. They're at 0.545 for strength of schedule, 0.548 for strength of victory, compared to 0.468 and 0.425 for Kansas City, who's 6-1, or 0.468 and 0.463 for Philadelphia, who's six and
sure,
one. Of the teams that are 5-2, there are a couple teams. I'm sorry, of the teams with 2 losses, there are a couple teams that have slightly better of one of the 2 categories, but I think overall, when I looked at it, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who only have 4 wins, are the only team that only have 2 losses that actually have a better strength of schedule and strength of victory than Baltimore. So I
okay.
kept Baltimore at 1, and plus Pittsburgh only has 4 wins.
Well, it's because they
I
already had a
moved
bye
Baltimore.
week, right?
Yeah. Then at number 2, I have Detroit. I only dropped them 1 spot off the loss, and they did get annihilated in that game. Of the 5-2 teams, Detroit has the 5-2 or 6-1. Detroit has the second hardest schedule at third hardest schedule, 0.533, with one of the better strength of victories. There are a couple teams that are 5-2 that have a slightly better, besides Baltimore, that have slightly better, but their strength of victory is also strength of victory is better than Philadelphia's and better than Kansas City's, who are 6-1.
Okay,
Next, I have Kansas City. They dropped 1 spot. Kansas City still has not done anything that's more impressive than Detroit going into Kansas City and beating Kansas City, and then going into Tampa Bay and beating Tampa Bay. Yeah, they beat the Chargers. We'll get to the Chargers later in my rankings. At number 4, I have Philadelphia. They stayed at number 4 from last week. Yeah, they did beat Miami. Great. Yeah, they held Miami to 17 points. The 2 difficult teams that Miami has played are Buffalo and Kansas City, the 2 good teams that they have played. Outside of that, they have not played a team over 500. And so they're really impressive against, so maybe they've played a team over 500, but they haven't played a really good team, like besides Philadelphia and Buffalo. They haven't beat a good team. They've only beat shitty teams like Denver.
I got you.
And then at 5, Dallas was on a bye, so Dallas stayed at 5.
Hey man, I think it's interesting. I like that you're defending keeping Detroit up high. And no, I think, the strength of schedule, strength of victory, that's a good tactic, good way to look at it. For me, I ended up shaking it up here. I got Kansas City up at 1. I had them at 2 previously. Miami was my top dog last week. They lost to Philly, so I elevated Kansas City by 1 spot. I hear what you're saying, but with exception of week 1 where they were down Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, they've just been on a tear, man. I know they're not like blowing teams out, but they haven't lost a game other than that first week. And so then you got Philly at 2 on my board. I thought them beating Miami was a statement, kind of a win. And it was also sort of like a get right game when you look at how up and down they've been. They had been winning, minus the Jets implosion, but all their games, it seemed like they were facing some kind of adversity where they just weren't clicking. And Miami, they got it done in a really dominant kind of a way.
Yeah, but I'm going to push back on Miami because Miami has beat the Chargers barely, the Patriots barely, destroyed the Broncos, beat the Giants, and beat the Panthers.
Yep. I got you,
Not
man.
one of those.
I got
Not
you.
one of those teams is above
I
500 or
got you.
playing good football this year.
I got you. Yeah. And hey, that's cool. So, but then I've got Miami at 3. So I had them at 1 last week. They lost to one of my top 3 teams, so I moved them down a couple spots. So I got them at 3. At 4, I got Baltimore. I moved them up 8. They beat a top 5 team on my board, and they did it in a dominant kind of a fashion. And so that was the excuse I was looking for to get them out of that pack of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I felt this was an appropriate jump up. And then at 5, I've got San Francisco. They're still one of the most stacked rosters in the NFL. Sucks they've lost 2 in a row here, but I'm not ready to pull the plug on them just yet.
All right. So at 6, I have San Francisco. I had texted you over this weekend. Was San Francisco Monday night?
Yeah.
It was Monday night. And Monday night I texted you and it's like San Francisco, it looks like something's wrong. It looks
Yep.
like the last 2-3 weeks they haven't been how they were previously. I did like one joke that was going around on Twitter was Bleacher Report had tweeted after the loss to Minnesota that San Francisco, after winning a NFL record 15 games in a regular season games in a row, they've lost 2 games. Like the 2007 Patriots don't even exist. Because no, like they didn't say that, but like they won a record 15 games in a row, but the 2007 Patriots won all 16 regular season games.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a longer streak than 15?
Should
but
be.
They just have not looked, and a part of it is probably because of the Trent Williams injury and injuries are just starting to mount.
Deebo Samuel too.
Deebo Samuel's out again this week.
Yeah.
And now Purdy has a concussion. So they dropped 3 spots. At 7, I have Buffalo. They didn't move on my board. The only reason they didn't move is because when it boiled down to it, I had Miami and Buffalo really close. So and Buffalo just like 3 weeks ago destroyed Miami.
I got you.
So I had to correct for that. So I left Buffalo at 7 and moved Miami to 8, which dropping them 2 spots. I think it's high for Miami. Yeah, great. You can beat the subpar, the shitty teams, but you can't beat a decent team. So they actually, I'm down on them right now. Their defense, we talk about it. Their defense kind of looked really shaky this year or the last couple of weeks. Against
it's just been Buffalo. This whole year their defense hasn't gotten there yet, man.
And it's just there's something about them once they start beating a good team, maybe I'll consider moving them back up the
Yeah, we
board.
want to see them beat top 10 teams.
Number 9 stayed the same as Cincinnati. I was tempted to drop them off of the even though they're coming off a bye because of the fact that like with Cincinnati, I I really question what's wrong with them. It's they have not looked right at all this year. Yeah, you can say Joe Burrow's coming off the calf injury, didn't have any preseason time, but it's the whole. It's as a whole, the team hasn't looked right.
Yeah.
It's not just Joe Burrow that's looking down.
Yeah, the
And then
defense had that one really good game, and then aside from that, yeah, I mean everybody there's like cracks in the team all around.
yeah, and also with Cincinnati when you look at so they're 3-3 and their strength of schedule is 0.487 and their strength of victory is zero point 0.4, but they haven't won a conference game yet.
Nope.
They are 0-3 against the AFC. The only teams they've beaten are NFC teams this year, and they beat the Rams, which is a good win, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks, which is a good win. So those wins are good, but they've lost to division games, makes sense, and they lost to the Titans. So they got destroyed by the Titans.
Yeah, who's not been having a good year at all.
Exactly. I mean, the Titans are selling, and
Yep.
anyways. And then Atlanta, I left them at 10 because they won. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta ends up benching Desmond Ritter.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. His stats have not been there. I was just looking at, did I close it? It looks like I closed it, but
Yeah, at
his
some point, if it's not progressing for them, at some point they got to make a change because that team, it, you know, we're seeing talent at every level now where we've not normally seen that on the Falcons in a number of years. And
Mhm.
so if the quarterback situation's what's holding them back, they got to shake it up. But I get it. They squeaked by with the win, and so you don't have to pull the plug on it just yet. You just got to keep them on a tight leash.
Yeah, he has a 65.4% completion percentage. He did have his best completion percentage again in week 1, and it's been downhill since then. Well, kind of started to come back up, but a little bit. But his total his rating for the season is 84.1. He has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He's not rushing well. He only has 113 yards rushing.
Yeah, I thought they'd have him running the ball more. And I mean, in the limited times we've seen it, you can see the speed.
Hmm.
He's got the ability. They're just not calling it.
Yeah, you can see the speed, but like against Green Bay, he had 10 rushes for 39 yards.
Yeah. Well, and that's 10 rushes. That's not bad.
Yeah, but outside that, against Tampa Bay, he had 6 for 38, and other than that, it's been 1, 2, 1,
Yeah.
1, 2, 1.
Scarce.
Oh, he had a 4 in there, and then a 2. So like he has 26 total rushes on the season. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
Yeah. I'd be giving him 10 a game, dude.
games. Yeah, I'd be giving him 10 a game, not was that 4 a game?
Yeah. Because you're
That's
not going to have him pass the ball 35 times. So
yeah,
get him
and
involved.
that's obvious that you're not going to have him pass the ball. Like they've tried it, and against Green Bay, against the Lions, against Jacksonville, against
Yeah.
Houston, against Washington, they tried it, and he had against Washington he had 47 attempts. He was completion percentage 59.6. He did good against Houston. He did decent against Jacksonville. He was at 61. Against the Lions, he was at 55.3
Yeah.
with 38. He was against Green Bay. He was 59.4. So it's just something wrong there.
Well,
That if
he's
something's
just
not.
young and needs to develop. And I think a lot of people were a little bit surprised that they ended up going with him anyhow. as their
Yeah,
starter, and they went with him without going out and bringing in a veteran or doing something to kind of hedge their bet.
true. I mean, they did tried that last year with
Oh yeah, with
Mariota.
yeah, Mariota didn't work. Yep. All right, so
Yeah,
you good at 10?
yeah, I'm good at 10.
All right, so at 6, I've got Jacksonville. I moved them up 3. I would have liked to see a more dominant win over New Orleans, but they're starting to get rolling here nonetheless at 5-2. At 7, I've got Dallas. They were on a bye, didn't move them. 8, I've got Cleveland. Yeah, they got the win, but barely, and it was against a lower tier team on my board, and so just kind of the way things kind of shook out here, there wasn't really any room for them to move, so I kept them where they were at. Then at 9 with Detroit, I dropped them down 4 spots. We knew the defense had some issues. It was a bummer to see the offense stifled against Baltimore.
Hmm.
And I dropped them. I like how you defended them, I really do. But I had them at 5. I dropped them to 9. And, hey, I'm a fan. I got to be harsh when they're not doing what I want them to do. And I like that you tried quantifying it, though. I'm going to keep that in mind for next week. And then at 10, I've got Pittsburgh. It's getting kind of steep for Pittsburgh, but they're at 4-2, and I would say at least their offense is showing signs of life against the Rams, and so that's positive. But I am trying to keep them above some of these other AFC North teams, although I just flipped it and had Baltimore kind of catapult above them. So
Yeah, and on Pittsburgh, man, I'll get to Pittsburgh when
sure.
I get to them. I have them a little lower. But so at 11, I have Seattle. I actually was going to drop Seattle off the win to Arizona, but because I dropped the Chargers out of this area, Seattle actually stayed the same. Cleveland was going to stay the same off the win to Indianapolis, but dropped the Chargers. I like Cleveland. And I was looking at this. Cleveland at 4-2, their strength of schedule is they have one of the harder schedules so far this year, and one of the better strength of victories this year. So I I think actually 12 Cleveland might jump into my top 10 depending on what happens this week with them. Jacksonville's the same way, same like they barely beat New Orleans, but they have they have a strength of schedule. Jacksonville's strength of schedule is is just below Cleveland, and their strength of victory is just below Cleveland. That's why Jacksonville's kind of staying behind Cleveland a little bit for me.
Sure.
At 14, I have Minnesota. I moved them up 3 spots on off of beating San Francisco. I didn't want to get too crazy with it because like that game was kind of like Addison's welcoming party to the NFL,
Oh yeah.
and he really excelled. And we'll see if they can keep it up. But if he can keep it up, Minnesota can be a dangerous team this year.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it would totally change things when Justin Jefferson comes back.
Uh-huh. On 15, I have Pittsburgh. I had Pittsburgh below Minnesota, and I played with it, and I almost jumped Minnesota with Pittsburgh. But off beating the Rams, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But Pittsburgh has the so far this season has the third hardest schedule. Sorry, they're tied. No, wow, no, holy shit, that's a hard schedule. They have one of the hardest schedules this year. They have one of the highest strengths of victory. There's only two teams ahead of them for strength of victory in the entire NFL. How the fuck is that? There's 3 teams ahead of them for strength of victory.
Okay.
One of them has one victory and is ahead of them, but that's because strength of victory is the average of you take your wins, add up the winning percentage for the teams you beat, and divide it by the number of wins you have, and that's how you get strength of victory. So Arizona gets a huge bump with beating their one win beating Dallas.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh's strength of victory is at 0.556, and their strength of schedule is 0.575, which is one of the better ones. Like the only one that besides Arizona that's ahead of them for both of them is Houston, which I found interesting. But I had to do something this week because it was so hard with the board and with what was going on. I had to find something to kind of break these teams apart, and so I did a lot of work into this. Looking into the strength of schedule on it. If you can't tell.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see that was a huge factor for you this week, and I think it was a good way to do it to kind of sort of like break up some of the ties and some of the things that are hard to decipher. And this week, man, I mean, I told you this morning going through and doing this, it was kind of fast and furious, but it just seemed like, oh my gosh, man, the board just was
Hmm.
not in harmony in any way whatsoever. And so I had to make some moves that probably normally wouldn't have made, but I just, sometimes this is just the way the weeks stack up on you. So, all right, well, yeah. So at 11, I got Buffalo. I dropped them 5 spots. I was tempted to go further. I like that you're kind of holding the line on them. But for me, I started looking at really how many guys they've lost on that defense. And I started to think, geez, man, um, it's just not good. Like they're asking Josh Allen to carry them every week now. And, he's shown that he can do that, but it's like, just like this game against New England, if he falters at all, that defense is not talented enough to do him any favors now. I mean,
Hmm.
I thought I saw something like they had 5 starters on defense out, 5 out of their 11. And I think at least 3 of them are out for extended periods of time. So it's just not a good situation for them. And then at 12, I've got Seattle. I moved them up 2 spots. Almost didn't even move them up because beating Arizona, even though Arizona's kind of like surprise hung in there in a lot of games, I don't, I still got them in my bottom tier, but the board kind of worked in their favor. So they get a 2 spot bump. 13, I've got Cincinnati. They didn't play, so they didn't move. At 14, I've got the Chargers, and I didn't smoke them like you did. And I think historically, I kind of hold the rope for about an extra week before you do with some of these kinds of things. I looked at it as they're still one of the most talented rosters. They have a hard schedule, and the board kind of worked in their favor. And so, otherwise, a 2-4 start, yeah, I for sure would have dropped them by now, but uh, maybe next week. Maybe next week. And then at 15, I've got the Jets. They didn't play, so they didn't move.
Yeah. All right. At 16, I have Tennessee. They were on a bye. They stayed the same. I dropped the Chargers 9 spots to 17. I know I just, with the Chargers, it's everything that they need a new coach.
Yeah.
99% of the problems are the coach. They 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 lost to the Chiefs. They didn't show up to the fucking game against the Chiefs. This is 2 weeks in a row that they
Yeah.
barely even showed up to the games to the game. Their 2 victories are over the Raiders and the Vikings. They've lost to every other team. Tennessee, who is 2-4, Tennessee, they
Yeah.
lost to. One of Tennessee's wins is to the Chargers, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was a close game. Dolphins barely beat them, but it's like they barely beat the Vikings and they barely beat the Raiders, and
Yeah, they've
I
got
just
some
have
issues. And you can't blame it on Eckler being out anymore.
no because Eckler's back, but they're not using him right. But that's another story. I'm out on the Chargers. I I held on for an extra week on
Yeah.
them, and because normally I would have smoked them after the Dallas game. And like I thought about, I don't know if I messaged you saying that
I know,
I'm
but man, they kept that game all the way down to the end. They didn't win, but it just
yeah.
that game to me that game was like okay, they're still playing hard. Now the Kansas City game's like, man, like what the hell are you guys even doing now?
Yeah, and this was like it was I told you it was like their last. We talked about it last week. It was like their last shot to save their season. Their season's done. Chargers are going to Charger, but
Yeah.
I was I just I'm out on them. I'm
Okay.
completely out. The Some things happened around here that I couldn't drop them much more.
Okay.
Um, and 18, I have the Raiders. I dropped them 3 spots. When I get to 20 through like 22, because like a lot of teams right in here lost,
Hmm.
and the Raiders lost to Chicago, and like basically every one team before you get to like my 29, one team in there won in this range. So I couldn't really drop the Raiders much
Yeah.
off of their loss to Chicago because it's then you get to Houston who's on a bye, and Houston's a team that I considered actually moving up when I looked at it. Like they're 3-3, they're 500, but they have their strength of schedule is 0.585, which is a fairly difficult schedule. The strength of victory is 0.6. Um, but I considered moving them up when I went into it, but then with the bye, I left them the same. And then at 20, I have Jacksonville. I'm sorry, I have New Orleans, who lost to Jacksonville. Did I talk about? Yeah, I did. Okay. I was like, where was Jacksonville? New Orleans lost to Jacksonville. I wanted to going into the weekend after the Thursday night game. I was like, oh, I'm gonna drop New Orleans. I could already see it, and then is like put every team basically behind them. Like it, I would have to I would have to jump like New England up to 20 for which I couldn't make the argument for, but I'd have to jump New England up to 20 to drop New Orleans.
I got
So
you.
they stayed the same.
Okay. All right. So at 16, I got the Falcons. I moved them up 4 spots, and basically I just kind of flipped them with where I had Tampa Bay previously, since they beat Tampa Bay. And then at 17, I got Houston. They didn't play, so they didn't move. At 18, I've got Tampa Bay, so I dropped them 2 spots from where they were at. The talent's there, but so is the inconsistency. At 19, and man, I fucking love that. What was it, like a 40-yard touchdown to Mike Evans early in the
Yeah.
game? And it's like, you'd think that would like help build some momentum, and no.
Yeah. Oh, and Baker's questionable
Okay, I didn't see that, but all right.
for this week too.
Gotcha. And then at 19, I've got the Rams. It was a close game. I don't want to overthink it. I'm just dropping them 1 spot here. And then at 20, I've got the Vikings. Great primetime victory for Kirk Cousins. I hope they can build some momentum off of it. I like what you're saying. We got to keep an eye on Addison because he could be sort of like that spark to get these guys out of their funk. Um, I still don't have a lot of faith in Minnesota, to be honest. I
Mhm.
don't like their defense. I think it's going to drag them down. But if their offense can figure out some running game stuff, and then Addison step up in Justin Jefferson's absence, they might be able to keep it afloat on offense. And so that gets me through 20, man. Back to you at 21.
All right, so I'm gonna actually do instead of 21 to 25, I'm gonna do 21 to 26 because it'll make sense. There's
Sure.
because that was like the only change in this range for me. So 21 stayed the same. The Rams, Colts at 22, Giants I had at 26, and I had Washington at 23. I flipped them because the Giants beat Washington,
Sure.
and Tampa Bay at 24, they stayed the same, and even though they lost, because all these teams, besides all my teams I had from 21 to 24 lost this week, and the only win was the team I had at 26, and then the Jets at 25, they were on a bye. And
Okay.
basically all the teams I had from down to 29 here lost this week or were
Gotcha.
on bye. So like there's not going to be that much
Yeah.
remaining.
Hard to shake it up. It's like last week, I think I had my bottom seven or something. All were locked where they were.
Hmm.
All right, so at 21, I've got the Raiders. I kept them where they were at. I didn't want to go crazy about it. We talked about it. Two backup quarterbacks playing. Hard to get a real look at what that team is when you got a backup in. And so I didn't want to like drop them or anything. It's going to be more about are they going to get Jimmy G back, and is this going to be a recurring thing with him, like we've seen throughout his career, where he keeps missing time? If that's the
Hmm.
case, well, then I'll eventually just smoke him because it's just not meant to be. But injuries are very hard to predict, and so that's where I'm at right now. 22, I've got the Colts, and so this one's kind of wild. I bumped them up 3 spots on a loss. It's you know this whole group on my board, it's hard to make sense of week in and week out. And I've told you, like, I've moved chunks of teams week in, week out, trying to make sense of it. And then with this one, it's like, I think you spoke a lot about it earlier. They played really good against the Cleveland Browns. And I just think that each week that goes by, I am more and more impressed with them. I did drop them quite a bit with Richardson having the surgery and being out, but they're showing that they've still got signs of life, man. And so I got to
Yeah,
respect that.
and they have one of the hardest schedules in the league this year. In fact, they have the second hardest schedule so far this season in the league at with their opponent, the average opponent's winning percentage is .587.
Gotcha.
There's one team that I saw that's ahead of them, and it has a harder schedule, and I was surprised that team was actually had a harder schedule. Maybe I was too harsh on them.
Gotcha. Okay. So then at 23, I've got the Saints. I thought they played a close game to a superior team, and so I kept them where they were at. Didn't feel like I needed to drop them. 24, I've got the Patriots. I moved them up 3 spots. It'd be nice if we could see them play this way more often, but that's just not who they are right now.
The
And then at
Patriots
20,
actually are the team that have the hardest schedule so far this year.
oh, gotcha.
Their
Okay.
their opponent's average winning percentage this year is .596.
So maybe something is going to turn around for them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. That it's quite possible that something's going to turn around. I was surprised at how difficult their schedule was so far this year when I saw it.
Gotcha. And man, and honestly, because you say that, I think about the Patriots historically, and they're a team that, like, they make noticeable strides as the season goes on, and they get really fucking good by the end of the year. But they've
Hmm.
often started seasons kind of soft. And I just wonder, they brought in a new offensive coordinator. There's just a lot changing on that team with the hard strength of schedule. It's almost like it was a little bit of a perfect storm for them to get through this first wave of the season. Um, I don't know, man. Maybe they can turn it around. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I you say that the last time the Patriots started 0-2 was in 2001, and they won the Super Bowl that year. I'm not saying the Patriots are going to win the
Yeah.
Super Bowl this year.
You're
It's just
pointing
that's
out that
the
it's
point.
possible to turn it around.
It's possible to turn it around, and it's also they played some tough teams so far this year. I mean,
Yeah.
started the season with the Eagles, who have one loss. Then they played the Dolphins, who have 2 losses. They played the Jets, who are 500. The Saints, who are, I think the Saints were the first team they played that's
Three
below
and
five.
four right now, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and the Raiders are below. So they play 2 teams that are 3-4, and the rest of the teams that they played are 4-3, or 4-3, 5-2, 5-1,
Sure.
and 5-2. So it's a harder schedule, and their schedule's going to get going to get easier as it goes after this week because they play the Commanders and they play the Colts and then they play the Giants. And like, it's going to get easier after this week until, what was that week?
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, with those 3 games, Commanders, Colts, Giants, they could be 500 right after the end of that stretch.
It'll be just under 500 because they play the Dolphins this week.
Oh, or after this week. I got you.
Yeah,
I got
after
you.
this week. After this week,
Then
projected
they got that 3-game
they'll be
stretch.
they'll be 5 and they could be 5-7.
Okay.
And then they play some tough teams, and I mean they still could end up 500 or better and make the playoffs. It's quite possible.
Okay. All right. So then, yeah, James, at 25, I've got the Giants. I moved those guys up 5 spots. I think they got to stick with Tyrod Taylor, man. He's not flashy, but he's going to keep them alive in games. And, I don't know. Is there a quarterback controversy with the Giants? People are saying, oh, why would you even say that? It's obviously Daniel Jones' team. I'm not convinced that it is. So back to you, 20 or 27, because you already did 26.
Yeah, but with the Giants, is it Daniel Jones' team? I think Daniel Jones.
Why? Just because you paid him a bunch of money? Big deal. It's about winning
Big fucking
games,
deal.
man.
It's about exactly. I guarantee you they regret that Daniel Jones contract.
Yeah.
And if they can find a way out of it, they're going to get out of it because he got his money and then regressed. Okay, 27, I have, so right in here, basically my 27 to 29 all lost or were on a bye.
Okay.
So there's no movement. Arizona, Carolina was on a bye. At 29, there was movement. I moved from a team I had at 29 down and New England up to 29. I really think when I was looking at it, I was too critical of them earlier in the year or a couple of weeks ago when they had those back-to-back 34-point losses. And I didn't take into enough consideration how good the first one was. The second one was not that good of a team in the Saints, but also the thing is once Belichick got to 299 against the Jets and lost the next 3 games. How much of those losses were actually the pressure on the team to get Belichick to 300?
Could be a factor.
And now that he hit the 300, are they going to turn it around? I'm just saying they could. Like,
Yeah.
It could 100% be the issue with the Patriots was they weren't handling the pressure of getting Belichick his 300th win. So they only moved up 1 spot. I want to see a little bit more before I move them up. Plus, if I would have moved them up more than 1 spot, I would have ended up having to move Carolina down off of a bye, and I didn't want to do that. Chicago beat Vegas. I'm not going to go crazy on it. I moved them up one spot. Like, yeah, I mean, we've hit it. It was the battle of backup quarterbacks, and Bagent won, or Bagent, or Bagent, or however the fuck you pronounce his name.
Yeah, I've heard him say it both ways, but they were calling him Bagent all preseason, and then I heard some guy calling him Bagent this past weekend. So
yeah, so it's hard to take anything out of that game, but I still move Chicago up 1 spot because hey, they won.
Yeah, why not? All right, so at 26, I've got Tennessee. They didn't play, they didn't move. 27, I've got Washington. I dropped them down 8. One of my bigger moves on the board. Bottom line is I just expected more out of them than a 3 and 4 at this point in the season. And so I just had to drop them down. 28, I've got Chicago. I moved them up 1. We've already covered them pretty well. 29, I've got Denver. I dropped them 1. Yes, I'm dropping them even though they got a win. I don't care. It's my board. Sometimes you just got to realign things as you see fit, and that's just what I thought I had to do. And then at 30, I've got Green Bay. I dropped them down 8. When you lose to Denver, you get smoked on my board, man, and that's what I did here. So give me your dumpster fire, James.
All right. So you get smoked on your board. You dropped them down 8. I already had dropped Green Bay to, what was that, 29. So you couldn't really go that far for Green Bay on my board. I Denver, Green Bay. I had Denver at 30, 32 last week because they lost to Chicago, and I had them behind Chicago, and I had Green Bay at 29. I dropped Green Bay to 32, the 3 spots, and I moved Denver up 1 spot to 31.
What a beautiful little dumpster fire you got going on over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I've got Arizona and Carolina. They're just stuck. Arizona lost, but there's nowhere for them to go because I got Carolina at 32. They were on a bye. They didn't play. They didn't move. But Carolina's still 0-6, and so I talked about it like in week 3 or week 4 that I would love to bump them, but they got to get a win, and they just can't seem to do it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's my dumpster fire, man. All right, you ready to do some game picks, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good to do some game picks. Man, last week we fucking sucked. I
Yeah, we
did find
sucked
an
it up.
I did find an error on the spreadsheet you sent me.
Okay.
Um, you had San Francisco beating Minnesota
Oh shit.
22-17. I corrected it when I added my picks in and changed it to Minnesota winning 22-17. Um, it took last week was a fucking terrible week for both of us. I got 4 right. You got 5 right. I wish I didn't find the error.
Yeah, yeah.
So at least 5 right is better than is better. Um, Look, we had a bad week. Our models did some weird things. There was some weird shit that happened in games. A lot of surprise
Some fucking
wins.
desperate one-win teams that upset
Yeah.
some guys.
For the season, I'm at 50%. You're at 58%,
Okay.
which we have to kick it into gear.
Yeah,
First
no shit.
first up, we have Tampa Bay at Buffalo on Thursday night, and my model. I think my model had Baker in there. Baker's questionable for the game. A lot of people are fucking questionable for the game for Tampa Bay. My model actually had it as a 1 point victory for Buffalo, and I think that's because of the corrective factor for. I basically change Buffalo's QB rating to equal the QB rating of the starting quarterback for the opposing team.
Okay. That's your way of having him play down.
Yeah, because that's what it seems. He seems to play as good as the quarterback on the opposing team.
Gotcha.
Um, and it has a barely Buffalo winning in the game. If Baker was playing, I might consider an override based on how Buffalo's been playing, but they're coming off a loss to New England. It is a short week. I'm going to give a little bit of confidence in Buffalo this week and go with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Buffalo. My model's got it by a little more than a touchdown, and I think it could even be bigger than that because I've not fully adjusted all of the defensive ratings down with all the
Mhm.
injuries for Buffalo, and so yeah, I'm sticking with the Bills, man.
All right. Next up, we have Houston at the Carolina Panthers. Um, it's actually, I'm overwriting my model on this one. Somehow, my model came up with a 17-16 win for Carolina. This might be the week that Carolina wins for you, but I can't. The way I've picked Carolina to win in past weeks, and I've been
Yeah.
burned by them. I have I have no faith in Carolina, and I just really like what I'm seeing in Houston, and that with Houston, I talked about the strength of schedule and everything for Houston for all the teams is like Houston has had a fucking tough schedule, and they're 500.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting you say that because I didn't mark it as an override, but my model has Carolina winning by 1.5.
Hmm.
But I picked Houston because I've got Houston significantly higher on my board. And when I look at my heat map, it's almost entirely green for Houston. And so I'm kind of like scratching my head as to how Carolina could be getting the edge in the model. And
Exactly.
so, yeah,
I I don't know, and it's because like mine, I had a 1 point victory for rounding 1 point victory. I don't know.
yeah,
It could have been 1.5, and they just happened to
round down.
um, round down. I didn't delve into it, but or dive into it, but it's interesting that our models are so aligned on that game.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Houston.
And then we have the Rams at the Cowboys.
Man, this could be. I don't, the Rams have been surprising some people, man. So
Mhm.
this one's interesting.
This one could be the highest scoring game of the week. By far the highest scoring game of the week. This I have two games that I think could be the highest scoring game of the week. This is one of them. It could end up being a shootout. It depends on how Stafford plays. But Dallas can put up points, and their defense has been
Yeah.
leaky recently. So there is a chance if the Rams play like they did prior to this past week. Um, Hold on. So if they play how they were playing prior to this past week, I think the Rams could easily surprise people. I'm not gonna predict the
The upset.
Rams the upset. My model has it as like an 11 point victory for Dallas, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with that.
Yeah, and I've got it at almost 10 points for Dallas. And so we're pretty aligned on the model here, too. It's just interesting how we both kind of look at the narrative of being sort of a wild card for this game. But my heat map's almost all green for Dallas. The Rams, as much as they've been surprising me, I gotta stick with Dallas when the spread's that big. And so I'm going Cowboys here, man.
Sorry, I got a text from my boss,
It's all good, man. Your
and I'm not
wife
talking about my
boss or
boss
your boss
downstairs.
boss?
My boss. So as management, we have to have an assigned actor if we take time off, and she's going to be out of the office tomorrow, and she was wondering if I could act for her to deal with anything that comes up.
Oh,
So,
yay.
well, I'm kind of I'm her basically been her go-to person to act like in December. I'm acting like the whole month for her actually. But
Are you
anyways,
acting at her pay grade too?
not tomorrow, but in December, yes.
Nice, man. Nice. Uh,
All right. So we Minnesota at Green Bay.
yes.
So I didn't adjust my model for Jordan Addison. I want to see him do it back to back weeks. Before a couple weeks in a row, back to back, whatever. I want to see Minnesota do it. They're coming off a high of beating San Francisco this past week. Cousins played good. Normally he doesn't play good. Like he's kind of can be hit or miss on it. So I just kind of left my model the same on Minnesota. Didn't make any adjustments, and the same on Green Bay. And where it was prior to this past week, the model would have Minnesota winning 21-20.
Okay.
There's no reason for me to pick Green Bay. When it comes down to it, um, I think Green Bay has the better coach, and my criteria a lot of times to break some of these ties is better coach, better quarterback. But
Yeah.
Green Bay has the better coach, but Minnesota has the better quarterback, so it's kind of a tie. But so I'm gonna go with my model at 21-20 with Minnesota as a close game, but I could see Minnesota embarrassing Green Bay for a change.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's a divisional game, right? So you never know what's going to happen. And um, my model, when I put in a momentum factor for Minnesota coming off of that win, gives them the edge here, which kind of like counters Green Bay having an edge because they're playing at home.
Hmm.
But, I do like Minnesota, just like seeing what we've seen out of these teams. I think Green Bay started sort of overperforming and then they've sort of like reverted to the mean. Minnesota's like the other way. They started kind of down in the dumps and now they're showing some signs of perseverance. And so, different trajectories. I got to go Vikings, man.
Yeah. Then next up we have the Saints at the Colts. So I my model. This is another override from my model. My model had New Orleans winning actually by 11 points, and I think part of the thing is part of what I'm seeing is the Colts and how they played against Cleveland, and what they put up against
Yeah,
Cleveland, and how New Orleans played against Jacksonville, and how they looked lost against Jacksonville. I think New Orleans regrets signing Derek Carr and should have just gone with Jameis Winston and hopefully get one of the top picks to get either Caleb Williams or Derek May that we talked about last week. Um, I, I think how they're playing wise shifts it to Indianapolis, and plus I wanted otherwise, like basically our entire most of our our picks were identical this
yeah.
week. So, and I have to make up some ground on you because I'm down by 9.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
gonna.
So you're reaching, but you think it's a safe reach.
I think it's a safe reach, because I think the Colts have been playing better than the Saints,
Sure.
but but I mean I'm hedging it saying I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints win because that's actually what my model says is going to happen. But I need to make up some ground somewhere.
I gotcha. Yeah, so I've got New Orleans winning this one by just under three, and um, you know, I did notice that I did just put Indy right above New Orleans on my board, but they're neck and neck,
Hmm.
and honestly, I feel like you're saying Indy has been the tougher team. They kind of have like maybe some momentum where New Orleans has just been underwhelming, and I've been dogging them a lot this year. Um, yeah, but I'm gonna stick with the model. I'm gonna stick with the roughly 3 points for the Saints here, and if they lose, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not the end of the world.
Next we have the Patriots at the Dolphins, and I'm going with the Patriots. Hell yeah, Ryan. No, fuck no. Um,
Oh, dude, I thought you were serious there for a second.
fuck no. Like, look, this is at Miami. The Patriots always lose at Miami. Even when Tom Brady was there, they always lost at Miami. They're going to lose at Miami again. I might switch this depending on where the Tyreek Hill news pans out because he's questionable with a hip injury.
Okay,
So so there's a chance I switch it, but right now I'm on the Dolphins, and there's not much debate for the Patriot. I'm not much to
sure.
argue for the Patriots winning the game.
Yeah, so I've got the Dolphins as well. And the interesting thing about my model here is that it's less than a point in Miami's favor, which I believe when I dig into it is just because I've not dropped some of the ratings on the Patriots as much as I should have by now.
Hmm.
With them being 1-5 going into last weekend's game, I probably should have notched them down a few more spots in the ratings, and I haven't yet. But either way, I feel good about Miami in that game.
All right, then we have the battle in New York. Um, New York Jets technically at the New York Giants. They're technically, I think actually how the rules are stated for when they play each other, the New York Jets cannot use their own locker room at MetLife Stadium. They have to use the visitors' locker room.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Um, anyways, I digress. Um, there's not much interest in this game. Not much interest at all. Both these teams are crap. Um, I'm I'm gonna go with the Jets, I guess. I actually my model had it as a tie game,
Okay.
and I'm not gonna predict a tie game. Um, so I'll go with the Jets, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because my model, James, and we've had a lot of them align here tonight. My model has it as .06 in favor of the Jets. And my mind was telling me no way would it be that close because the Jets have been playing really tough, especially on defense. Um, but the model is the model, and I think part of it is the Zach Wilson factor and whatever else. But either way, I'm taking the Jets. Are coming off a bye. Maybe that's a little bit negated because the Giants are coming off a win. I don't know, but I do like the rested Jets team that has some hope of keeping the ship afloat until Rodgers maybe comes back for a playoff run or whatever they got going on.
Oh, and we forgot to congratulate in the news of the week or the review of the past games. We forgot to congratulate the Giants for scoring a offensive touchdown and a touchdown
Oh,
in the first half of the game this
yay.
past week for the first time
But
this.
they went under, like you were calling, right?
Yeah, but they
Yeah, they
went
went
under.
way under, right?
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Jaguars at the Steelers. This was one where on my model, I I first like at first glance, I question it because it has Pittsburgh winning 21-14.
Okay.
But when I dive into the numbers, I couldn't override my model on this because of the simple fact that I really like what I'm seeing in Pittsburgh. I really do. And I think I think Pittsburgh, if they can put together a game like they did against the Rams, can easily walk away with this one. Um, and it's not like the Jaguars who are 5-2. It's not like they've really outscored their opponents. It's like 27. So what's that? They're plus 27, and like they have a weaker strength of schedule um, than Pittsburgh, and they have a lower strength of victory.
Okay.
So they've when the strength of schedule is lower than the strength of victory, that means the teams they beat the weaker teams and lost to the better teams on their schedule,
Gotcha.
more more or less. And um, I just where Pittsburgh is about even on strength of victory, strength of schedule.
Okay. Um, well, yeah, I'm with you on Pittsburgh, and I like that it's in Pittsburgh. It's a Mike
Mm-hmm.
Tomlin team that's they started off kind of rocky, but they're fighting their way through games and getting wins, man, at 4-2, and I like that tenacity. Jacksonville, I actually have higher on my power rankings, but I still am going to take Pittsburgh here. It just because I have that conflict between the model and the board. I wouldn't be surprised with it going either way, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Next up, we have Atlanta at Tennessee. And I know it's a surprise to you that I'm picking Tennessee. My model had Atlanta scoring 6 points in this game.
Okay.
And I can't when my model doesn't have you even scoring a fucking touchdown,
Yeah, that's not good.
that's not good. I mean, it has Tennessee scoring 16,
Okay.
points, so not much better. But like I said, I think there's problems in Atlanta with Ritter at quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Tyler Heineke starting at any time, any at any moment. You could see him starting. Tennessee, the news report I saw, which happened to be like it was like 5 hours ago, did say that they are using both Levis and Willis,
Yeah.
um, and that's what their plan is for the game.
Will and Willis.
Yeah. So, but one thing one thing about it is these quarterbacks when they come in and there's no real tape on them with the first
Yeah.
teams,
It can
they
be a good factor.
yeah. Oh, we missed something in the news.
What's that?
Chase Vinovich retired officially.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But sorry, I was looking for another article and that popped on my screen. But I was looking more for the Levis Willis thing, but it's not there.
It's
Uh,
cool.
but anyways, I'm on Tennessee. I'm not going to override this one. I'm not going to override my model on.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm taking Atlanta. This is like, the benefit in my model is that it's in Tennessee, but I've got Atlanta higher on my board. When you look at just kind of like the eyeball test here, Tennessee is really having a bad year, minus a couple surprise kind of games. Like you mentioned, they beat the Chargers. I mean, it's like unexpected, but that's the Chargers maybe doing it to themselves. And so, um, I like Atlanta. I like their ability to run the ball, control the game, and Ritter can do enough to get it done. Tennessee, on the other hand, man, they've just been so like defective on offense that maybe this will be what they need. Maybe shaking it up at quarterback helps them. I don't know, but I got to go Atlanta until I see otherwise.
Yeah, and one thing I just noticed is, and I don't know if I consciously did this, but when with my overrides on my model, with the exception of the Houston game, I chose the way that would go up against you when I thought, wait a minute, something's wrong with that, or I considered overriding it. Like, but because the next one is, I just noticed that this one's the same way, where like I didn't override Tennessee and it went against you. I overrode New Orleans and it went against you. The exception is Houston, and there's one more. Oh, and Houston and Pittsburgh. I didn't
Okay.
override those and didn't go against you. So it's 3-2. Um, anyways, Seattle. I'm sorry, Cleveland at Seattle. Yes, Cleveland's playing really, really, really well. Yes, Seattle's playing. Oh, I'm okay. Seattle's 4-2. They have a really weak schedule, a really weak strength of victory. Um, I think Seattle has the weakest schedule so far, just barely the weakest schedule so far in the league. Yes, they do
Okay.
at 0.35. The only one that's really close to them in the three, and really close to them, there's Las Vegas is close to them at 0.391, and the Dolphins at 0.383 for strength of schedule, and the Cowboys at 0.375. So there's teams that are closer to them for strength of schedule. Um, but but I don't know if my model is giving way too much credit for Frank Clark on it, signing with Seattle, or if it does not have enough credit for or enough talent or enough rating for PJ Walker starting instead of Deshaun. I don't know why I chose not to override my model. My model has Seattle winning 30-20
Okay.
in this game. I'm gonna stick with Seattle, but I can't explain why my model has
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Seattle
it's
winning.
in Seattle,
But
and
I
Pete
don't have a
Carroll.
home field.
No, that's true. You do mention that a lot. Yeah, you don't have a home field advantage. I've got one built into mine, and it has still Cleveland winning by 1.5. And I did not add Frank Clark to the model though, so I don't know how much that would shift it. I doubt it would be by more than 1.5. But um, in either case, I am going with Cleveland. Um, it's tough taking a team with a backup quarterback on the road.
Hmm.
But like you mentioned, Seattle, I don't know what it is with Seattle, man. They started the year maybe looking better than I thought they were, and now they've started the more I've seen them, they've had some of that exposure kind of come to light. And I think part of it's Geno Smith is having a down year compared to last year. And so I don't know, but I'm going to go with the model here, and I'm taking Cleveland. Give
All
us a
right.
little action.
Next up, we have Baltimore, Arizona.
Did we skip Philly and Washington?
We did.
Okay,
There's no
but
need
we're
to
both
talk about.
taking Philly,
We're
so
both taking Philly.
yeah,
My my eyes just skip right over it.
yeah,
Washington
it's
doesn't have a chance in hell of winning that game. I think also I wouldn't be surprised if Washington is shopping Chase Young if they sit him.
they should be. I mean, they've talked. Well, I don't know if they've talked about it, but the rumor mill has talked about it since the preseason.
Hmm. Exactly. All right. Next, so Philly is a much better team. This team got him even more improved by adding Bayard instead of in trading for Bayard and
Get
Edmonds.
rid of Edmonds.
Yeah, I think the secondary was improved. I think Bayard's better than Edmonds, especially this year. Um, and I also question if Sam Howell is a real quarterback
Yeah, man,
after
I
what
was
I
hopeful
saw
for
this
him.
against the Giants. But anyways, I digress. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Arizona Cardinals. Baltimore is a really, really, really good team. Arizona is a meh, okay team. This is or could be the classic trap game for Baltimore.
I could see that.
Overlooking Arizona because they have Seattle next week, who's theoretically a better team. I think Baltimore forgets to show up for this game and starts reading their hype after um, beating down the Lions. And Arizona does what they did to Dallas and surprises Baltimore and wins the game.
So you're flipping to Arizona.
I'm flipping to Arizona.
It's bold, my man.
It's kind of just like a gut feeling.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta go with the gut. See, I'm going, and I mean, you got Baltimore at 1 on your board, right? So
I know.
you're being bold, but I'm going Baltimore. I know it's on the road, but I think that Baltimore beating Detroit the way they did was like them hitting their stride, and I think that they feel good about it, but they want to keep it going. I don't think they're taking it for granted. I think they're going to use it and build off of it. And so I think they beat Arizona on the road, no problem.
Next game we don't have to talk about. I'm not sure if the Denver Broncos are a real football team.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
Kansas City
divisional
at
game, but it
Denver.
shouldn't matter.
It is divisional. It is divisional, undivisional game.
Yeah, obviously we're both taking Kansas City.
Yeah.
It'd
Obviously,
be real bad to take Denver.
there's no chance in hell Denver has to even being in the game. Except we actually have a decent game, Cincinnati at the 49ers. If Cincinnati plays like Cincinnati, if Cincinnati plays like they have this year, or San Francisco plays like they have the past few weeks,
Yeah.
then this could be a pretty shitty game. Um, Look, San Francisco's just clearly the better team. I don't have the faith in Cincinnati putting together. Yeah, they're putting it together. They're getting better, um, and putting together a more complete game. But I don't have the faith in them to
Yeah.
beat a good team or decent team 2 weeks in a row. Seattle last week and then San Francisco this week. Plus, with my model has it as a 2 touchdown victory by San Francisco. So
Hard to override that.
hard to override that, especially how. I mean, both teams kind of been playing shitty this year. It does seem that Cincinnati's more on the upward trajectory, where San Francisco on the downward trajectory, especially with injuries. But I'm still going
Yeah,
to
but
stick
if
with
you're
San
going to get
Francisco.
right, you're going to do it at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it'll be tough because Cincinnati's coming off a bye. And so they're going to come out feeling fresh, feeling rejuvenated. We think that some of the reason that they had such a slump to start was that Burrow was coming off of that ankle injury in the preseason. And so now like a full week to rest it, hypothetically, he should be back towards the top of his game. But I think San Francisco, like I said, they're playing at home. It's a get right game for them. It's not going to be an easy get right game for them, but it's going to be a game that they win. And so I'm taking the 49ers, man.
All right, then we have the Bears at the Chargers. Somebody has to win this game. I think Bagent starting again this week. It's a
Good,
terrible,
good.
it's good, but it's a terrible fucking Sunday night game. Chargers don't play good in prime time. That defense and defense and coaching with the Chargers leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
I can't, in good conscience, even though I'm actually fuck it, I'm gonna pick Chicago.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go with Chicago. I had my model has it as a 21-20 game for, towards the Chargers.
I like that you're being bold here because honestly, I want to see another week of Badgett at quarterback. But I'm going with the Chargers, man. It's at home for them, and man, I don't know, it's tough. My heat map is actually pretty mixed. I wasn't expecting it to be that mixed in my heat map, but um, oh, that's just because I didn't put Eckler back in here on the Chargers. That's weird. Either way, I'm taking the Chargers. I agree with you. Their coaching sucks, but I just like them to win this game.
All right, final game of the week, primetime Monday night. The Raiders at the Lions. I'm gonna let you start with this one.
Okay, so I am taking Detroit. I'll just start off by saying that. Um,
As well as am I.
okay, I was, I guess part of it is going to be is Garoppolo coming back, and I have my model that he is coming back. If he's not, I think it could be a freaking bloodbath. Um, but I've got the model set up for him to come back, and it actually has it being a fairly tight game. It has Detroit winning by 3, Um, Man, I like Detroit so much more than the Raiders, and I'm kind of surprised to see my heat map zigzagging throughout this one because when I watch these two teams, I just really believe Detroit is that much better. And so I don't know, it looks tight in the model, but I think Detroit should win this one no problem, man.
I agree with you. I think Detroit should win this one, no problem. I'm looking it up right now on the teams I've picked. I have to find a survivor pick for this week.
Okay.
Um, so I've already picked the Bills. Can't pick them. I've already picked the Dolphins. Can't pick them. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the 49ers. I skipped a couple teams. I picked Baltimore week 1, San Francisco week 2, Kansas City week 3, Philadelphia week 4, Miami week 5, Buffalo week 6, Cleveland week 7. Buffalo and Cleveland, those were a little too close for comfort for me. Of the games left this week, games that I could pick, because I'm not going to pick Tampa Bay to beat Buffalo. Cowboys, Rams, I'm unsure. Vikings, Packers, well, it depends. Falcons,
Houston,
Titans,
you're taking
it,
Detroit.
it depends. Saints,
Okay.
Colts, I'm kind of going against it. Patriots don't have a chance against the Dolphins. Jets, Giants, I have it as a tie. I'm not that it's like I can't pick the Eagles over Washington. Texans, Panthers, I'm overriding my model. I could
Yeah, I
theoretically
gotcha.
pick Seattle um, this week, but I mean, I don't I don't think that's a sure thing. Not going to pick the Broncos to beat the Chiefs. Can't pick the Ravens over the Cardinals. Not going to pick the Cardinals. 49ers, Bengals. Well, I can't. I'm not sure, but what it boils down to is I think, and I hate it. I hate this because I'm on a good roll on my Survivor. I think I had my Survivor team this week has to be the Lions.
Do it, man. It's in Detroit.
It's in Detroit. When Detroit has a decent team and they have a Monday night game, they've shown up like no fucking other in those games.
Yeah, and they want to bounce back hard.
Yeah, and they want to bounce back hard. I think this is the perfect situation for the Lions to get back right, win this game, and I think if I remember correctly, go into their bye on a positive note. Yeah, next week's their bye.
Yeah, I like that for your survivor pick out of your options.
Wow, next week's already their bye,
Dude, the season's going by fucking fast, man.
and then the following week is the game I'm going to.
Oh, hell yeah. What game is that?
Chargers.
Oh, gotcha. Uh,
All right, anyways, then we have Thursday night next week.
Hell yeah, dude. You're watching the Lions play the Chargers. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
which I don't know who I'm going with now. With
Oh, yeah,
the
because your significant other is on the IR.
oh, she's extremely on the IR. She's with it's it's a wow. But anyways, Tennessee at Pittsburgh on Thursday night next week. Because are we doing Friday next week again? Well, we'll talk
Ooh,
about that later.
that's a good question, man. Let me,
We'll talk. We'll pull that
yeah.
up, but I'll do the picks. Pittsburgh's clearly a better team than the Titans, and it's not even really close on how much better Pittsburgh is than the Titans. So I'm going to be on the on Pittsburgh. I almost said on the Titans. I'm going to be on Pittsburgh for the game. I don't have much support on my model because the early model has Pittsburgh winning by 8, but it doesn't have the um, week 18 or week 8 data in there.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do Pittsburgh on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm taking Pittsburgh as well, and I was just shooting from the hip, kind of based on where they were at on the board. But if I skip ahead in my model, it's got Pittsburgh winning by almost 3, and so I'm good with that either way. But yeah, my heat map is mostly green for Pittsburgh. That's unlikely to change unless there's a whole bunch of injuries or stuff going on like that, and so I'm comfortable taking Pittsburgh for next week.
All right, so that's the picks. If you have, unless you have something else, we can move on to question of the week.
Sure. Yeah. Question of the week. So, James, I mentioned earlier I wanted to talk about Brock Purdy, and a lot of people, since they've lost 2 in a row now, have been coming out as, oh my God, is this the real Brock Purdy? And, how concerned are you about Brock Purdy and all this stuff, And I think, so I guess the question, we'll just say that the question is, are you concerned with Brock Purdy? And um, I was going to answer it totally differently, but now you mentioned the concussion factor, and I gotta say it's like a yes and no. Yes, I am concerned about the concussion because I mean you talked about it pretty clearly. His play fell off a cliff after they identified what was likely the hit that he took the concussion on. And so, if he comes back healthy, that's a different factor. But the concussion's a concern. I would say, aside from the concussion, I'm not really concerned yet because even the best quarterbacks have rough patches, and this guy is still very, very early in his career. And then, like we talked about, Trent Williams was out, Debo Samuel was out, McCaffrey was playing hurt. Just a lot of factors going up against him here. And so, and then even then, like their defense, you look at their defense, played really a good physical game, but they let a couple big plays go by, like that one right before halftime. And so that kind of stuff puts the offense at a disadvantage, and it's
Mm-hmm.
uncharacteristic for San Francisco to have that happen. So I'm not worried at all, man. But I hear so many people freaking out this week that I just thought it would be an appropriate question to ask and talk it out, man. So what do you think?
I'm not concerned at all for Brock Purdy. If you take out the Cleveland game, which was wet conditions against the league's best defense,
Yeah, and a kicker that missed it
and a
at the
kicker
end.
that couldn't make
A
couldn't hit the
fucking
broadside of a
high
fucking rock.
drafted kicker.
Yeah. Even Monday night, Brock Purdy, yeah, he had the bad stretch at the end of the game after the identified concussion. He still had a 70% completion percentage. He had no interceptions prior to the concussion. He threw for a touchdown. He still had 272 yards passing, which is good. Which is
Yeah.
which is pretty par for what he has. He has generally somewhere between 250 to 300. He one game against the Giants, he went over 300 this year, but I have no concerns about his play. I have concerns for the concussion because, as we've seen, concussions can derail a quarterback season. Look at
Yep. Tua last
Tua
year.
last year.
Yeah.
Tua would have had a phenomenal season if it weren't for the concussions. But and play wise, I'm not concerned for him at all.
Well, that's good. And I guess that's all she wrote. So we're in agreement. Don't hit that panic button on Brock Purdy just yet. All right. So, yeah, that's the question of the week. And that's all I got for the show, man. You got any closing comments, James?
No, I think I hit everything.
Okay. Well, hey, for anybody who's still watching, we hope you like the show. Hit us up, play some Name That Stadium, or answer our question of the week. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And like always, James, man, it was a good time. I'll catch you later, my man.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.